Okay, so this is my presentation, and my question that I based all my information off of was, what gear does an astronaut need? So, the first thing I found out is that they need spacesuits. I knew that before, obviously, but astronauts need spacesuits. Now, as you can see, I got my astronaut right here. His name is Jonathan. So, Jonathan here, if he wasn't in his spacesuit right now, he would be gone. Dead. He would be boiled on one half of him, while he was burnt, while his lungs collapsed, and he froze on the other side of him. So that would kind of suck. So basically, they have this mini spaceship-like thing that's also their bathroom that they wear when they want to go outside of their space station or rocket ship or go onto the moon. So yes. And this is made out of many different pieces. Now, the main piece is the torso piece. And from there on, the rest of the pieces, the legs and the arms and the helmet and all the gear is interchangeable to fit a certain person. So like if your arms were really long or something, you could have custom made arms attached to your spacesuit. And underneath the spacesuits, the astronauts also have a liquid cooling garment, which keeps extra heat from the sun that there would be in space out of there. Like, they're cool, but they're not cold enough that they're going to freeze to death. Like, they're just at a normal temperature. And I found cost prices on this, and one source, which was an article written by Robert Walker, says that they can cost around $2 million and 5,000 hours to make. But also I found another source, our Fast Facts YouTube channel says they can cost about $12 million to make. Now, I looked into this, and the average spacesuit costs between $2 and around $12 million to get finished. But NASA also reuses lots of the pieces to save themselves money. So, yeah. But I'm not sure why they spend all that money, because on Amazon a spacesuit is from like $50 to $70. So, yeah. Another neat thing that our astronaut, I think his name is Jonathan, needs to go into space is food. So in space, like every other place, you need food. So you can't take an apple into space, or else it'll basically just like turn to nothing. It'll die into nothing. So they take this apple and they freeze dry it, which means they basically preserve it and it'll last basically forever. And to eat it, you just add water to it, and I believe it's like baby food in the end. And the astronauts go and they put it in their mouth and they eat it. So then Jonathan has a nice good meal in space that is not this apple, because this apple would die in space. So another big aspect of astronauts is they need food. Now Jonathan here, he needs a way to get to space. So to get to space, Jonathan needs a rocket ship. So Jonathan needs a rocket ship, much like this one, to get into space, except for it doesn't have a hole right there. So they go inside the rocket ship, and then the rocket ship goes woo and flies them into space. Now, the price of the rocket ships depends on what kind of model, but I found that NASA's newest model costs about $63 million to launch. I couldn't find a steady price on what a rocket ship would cost to build itself, but it would be over $1 billion, considering since it takes $63 million to launch. So, going into space for an astronaut is not a cheap thing, and that is for sure. I also couldn't find a set price for the food, since it ranged from, it depended what the food was. So like fruit, I found it was around $2.50 per cup, which the source that I went on said that that was a lot more than real food. So in the end, my conclusion was, the main gear that an astronaut would need to get to space, or need to survive in space, is their spacesuit. And to get to space, they of course need a rocket ship. And the food I found very interesting, how they did it, so I included that too. So that concludes my presentation, and I hope you enjoyed.